Welcome to Odd Off Topic. How are you, Brad?
Andrew, I am good. How are you?
Good. Sound like you just fiddled the microphone right there as you went into it.
I did. I went and picked it up because it was sitting on the desk and I knew it was too far away to sound good. So I picked it up.
Let me grab it.
Yeah, pretty much what happened.
Oh no, we're starting.
I was doing important things, Andrew. I had to reach for my drink so it was within reach of my hands so that I could not have to interrupt later in the podcast. And I thought I did it fast enough, but
nope, too fast.
Since you want to call me out.
Yeah, I guess I will. Hey, we got some good feedback on the last episode. A lot of people liked it. Good to
Excellent.
know people are listening.
Yeah, it's good to know. Sometimes you forget because there's no direct, I don't know, there's no direct audience in front of you. And unless people tell us they listened, we have no idea.
Yeah, we haven't done any question episodes in a while. We'll have to do one.
I mean, I know there's analytics and stuff we can look at, but that doesn't always tell the whole story. It's nice to know people actually enjoy something sometimes. So Andy's also an excellent guest. So that helps drive it along a little bit.
It is.
But, yeah.
Hey, I had a random Volkswagen check engine light. Shocking. German car with check engine light.
I feel like this is just part of the initiation.
Only 15,000 miles in, which was surprising.
Well, it's better than 5,000 miles in, right?
Yeah. It turns out, I'm kind of annoyed because I was like, oh, it's coming up for the oil change. And I was going to go to the nice independent shop near my house, Autobahn, that we like. So they put liquid moly in it. And then the check engine light came on, and I was like, well, it's under warranty, unfortunately, so I got to go to the dealer with it.
Unfortunately?
Well...
God damn it, I have a warranty. I won't have to pay anything to fix this car.
Well, unfortunately, because I guess I could have had the oil change done there, but whatever. I don't want to drive around all the different places.
Well, I'm a big proponent of getting the oil change done at the dealer when the car is under warranty. Just because I know that, God forbid, something does happen, then there's nobody to blame but the dealer,
Yeah, well, you just need paperwork, and I don't know what kind of garbage tank oil they're putting in it, but whatever. It's under warranty, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's my point. I think at the end of the day, when you go to sell the car at the end, if you have this entire history from the dealership while the car was under warranty that it was done at the dealership, I feel like it's... And I'm not knocking the independent shops. I mean, especially that one. It's a great shop. I have this paranoia that I'd get my car, maintained somewhere else, and then something would go wrong, and Volkswagen would be like, well, tough luck, because you took it to Autobahn versus... But again, I'm definitely... I'm not doing any favors to the independent shops, and I want to support them, so forget I said anything. I just personally don't.
I mean, I don't go the 10,000 miles between oil changes anyways, because that seems insane. 5,000 miles is a good compromise.
I usually do the 5,000. Usually between 5,000 and 7,500.
10,000 is wild.
It isn't. I mean, if it's a brand new car and it's running right and that's the recommended interval,
but
it should be okay.
But I don't know if whatever oil they're buying in bulk meets the standards. Who knows if it does? Because we both used to work at dealerships and they just bought whatever oil.
Yeah, we didn't work at a 2021 Volkswagen dealership. I think it's changed.
I don't know. I also worked at an Infiniti dealer, and it was just it's 1030. Yep, it's 1030.
Yeah, but that was back in the wild times of the late 90s, early 2000s. It was different then. I think it's changed a lot in the last 20 years. Honestly, I do. I have faith that the dealership is charging me synthetic, is giving me the good synthetic and not something too garbage. I feel like Volkswagen wouldn't allow that of their dealer networks, basically.
Yeah, I don't
know. Again, it's a personal preference. I only do it because I have a warranty. I would never go to the dealer for anything that's paid out of pocket ever. So it's a weird paranoia that I have, and it's probably unfounded. But
no, I did my own cabin filter, and actually, it's probably due for an air filter. I should change that.
Yes, I did.
I'm not going to pay for somebody for that.
No, I did my cabin, my air, and my fuel filter all myself.
And I had to get wipers.
Although I will say that last time I had the oil done at the dealership, I also paid them to do a brake fluid flush.
Ah, yeah, that's pretty annoying to do.
Exactly. That's something I don't want to deal with by myself in the driveway. So I figured for $100, it was worth it.
But then the guy was like, "Do you want uh rotation?" I was like, "No."
Hmm. Well, that's another thing that my brain has changed a little on because we have the Discount Tire out here, and I bought my tires from Discount Tire. And if you rotate your tires on their schedule, then they have an almost zero prorate warranty.
All right, that's fair. But
Yep.
also, you don't have to swap winters to summers.
No, and also they don't charge me to rotate them, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so because I swap winter to summers, I just do it myself.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I'm also not going to pay someone to swap winters to summers because you're not mounting or dismounting tires.
Right.
You're just switching wheels, which I'm fully capable of doing. Um, oh, so yeah, the check engine light was on. So yeah, they checked it out, and then they call me up, and they're like, "Oh, it's just bad fuel." It's like it's so weird. Like
That's
it
very bizarre to me.
because I went to the mobile station near my house. I go to all the time, but I put 93 in it,
Yep.
and sometimes it's an independent mobile, but I've only noticed on their diesel pump when I was filling up a diesel one time, it says not a mobile product.
Right.
The other stuff is mobile product. So,
Yep.
um,
And that's all brand new tanks there too, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, they
Yeah.
redid. It's a very nice gas station. Like
Yeah.
they have like a whole home heating thing. Like it's Holden Energy like corporation. Like they have this whole thing, and they have a new uh, what do you call it, convenience store and everything.
Yeah, and it's right off the highway. A lot of the 18 wheelers stop there because it has the big. It's like, it's the closest thing you have in that area to like a big Love's rest stop off the highway.
I guess.
You know what I mean? Like it's not nothing. It's nothing comparatively to one of those, but it has like it's right off the highway. It has the big pumps for the tanker trucks, which have the
It's got the
huge
space
nozzles.
for tanker trucks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the huge nozzles that don't fit in regular cars on those pumps. Actually, they don't even fit in my old pickup truck. I couldn't use those pumps. They're huge, like for putting in 100 gallons at a time.
Yeah.
I think they have a really nice, like you said, convenience store there. So it's the closest thing to like a truck stop, I guess, on 128.
So that so it's weird because I literally use like I go around the same time going into work every morning. Not every morning, but
I was gonna
gas.
say gas every day. Ooh,
But when I need gas, it's around the same time, and I end up at like the same pump, and I put 93 in it because it's turbo and
sure.
runs a little better, get a little better mileage out of it. And then so I'm picking up, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, you just need to use top tier gas." I'm like, "Well, like, mobile station."
Yeah, I use
90,
93 mobile. What else? What should I use, sir?
and he's like, "Oh, you don't even need. You can put 87 in. It's just a Golf." I'm like, "Yeah, it's turbo though." And then I had a real moment in my head. I'm like, "Oh wait, this is like a real Ron Swanson." I'm like, "I know more than you." Like, just
Yeah, it's just a Golf. So it probably will run fine on regular. It would just the
I'm
computer would learn and
I'm sure it would. It's very
wouldn't run as
advanced.
efficient. Yeah,
Um, he's like, "Oh, we just put under warranty. They just put some fuel system cleaner in it." I was like, "All right, sure."
that's literally all they did,
Yeah.
and the light didn't come back on.
No,
That's
they
weird.
they reset it. I'm gonna when on my way to work tomorrow. I'm just gonna. It's almost half a tank. I'll just put some fresh stuff in it.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, it's super weird.
I don't know how you diagnose it as bad gas. Like,
Supposedly, I mean, it's direct injection, so it must have sensors in there for
yeah,
maybe water content, or it just knows pressure. I don't know. Knock.
yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Especially if you put it, yeah. Okay, I
Especially,
guess
yeah,
this is why you
especially,
have a warranty, and this is why you allow them to fix it as on a warranty. So if something does go wrong later, we can be like, oh, it's not bad gas. It was X, Y, Z.
yeah. And it's in paper, it's in writing. So then, like,
Yeah,
I don't know. And then, yeah, it seems weird to me, right? So the other thing too, it didn't come on like under hard acceleration, like it would be knocking or something. I literally started up, it was idling. I was plugging my phone in to use CarPlay, and I looked down, and the light's on.
hmm.
Okay.
I also think it's weird that he recommended you use top tier gasoline, and then in the same sentence was like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just a Golf."
Yeah.
Like that's a wild thing to say. Like, oh, you should just use something that's better. Oh, I use the best. Well, you shouldn't have to bother with that. It's just a Golf. What?
Listen, if I was putting in like, Speedway 87, all right, I could see some, but that's the other thing. 87 fuel gets used so often.
Yeah, that
It's
never goes
almost
bad or
all it's
anything.
almost always fresh.
Yeah.
93 doesn't get used as much. I've definitely gotten some bad tanks in 93 around here.
Huh. Well, it's funny because most of my stuff is not turbo, or it's old enough where it runs fine on 87. So I've never really had to worry about that. But
Once in a great while, and it's mostly since old Big Corn got involved here.
I'm also glad that there aren't consumer available at the pump grades of diesel, so I don't have to feel bad. I just have to buy whatever it is. I don't have to like make that Sophie's choice. Do I cheap out of my car and buy the cheap stuff, or do I buy the good stuff? Because it's all the same.
Yeah.
So it's like just dumping some 1030 in the tank and running it.
So yeah, that's solved. That's what I had going on.
Well, that's pretty simple then. Since we
Yeah.
started with the check engine light, you want to just go into some project car stuff?
Yeah, I might as well.
What what
I
have you been working
think
on other than that?
I think the only thing I did since the last podcast, because with Andy on, we didn't talk about any of our stuff. I aligned the Gallant, and the reason why I aligned the Gallant was because I was going to a show, and we'll talk about that
Correct.
show afterwards.
Yep.
But I had to align the Gallant because I had put the coilovers in, which I had talked about,
Yep.
but I just hadn't aligned it yet. And it wasn't that far off because I kept the front height pretty much the same. Basically leveled it in the rear because the H&Rs have a rake to them. So,
Which wasn't a bad look. It's just cooler with the
yeah,
even
it's
look
just
all around.
more level now. It does have too much camber. I need to dial some camber out, but it does track straight down the road, so that's
Nice.
good.
Excellent.
And then I shot photos of the Q45 for it to go to auction.
Have you heard back from them yet?
Oh yes, it was
Okay.
accepted.
Are they
But
doing a reserve or no reserve?
I set it for no reserve.
Oh, okay.
I figured, why not?
Rolling the dice.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think you'll lose money, so I think you'll be okay.
I don't think so either. I would be shocked
Yeah.
if it went for
Less than you
whatever.
had it.
Yeah. And I think I talked about putting new tires on it. It's got 4 brand new Yokos on it. Touring
Nice.
S's.
So is it scheduled yet? Do you know when it's going to run? Or
Well, here's the thing. So I, being the excellent photographer here, I really just didn't. I don't know. We're just busy with lots of stuff this weekend, and the kid and doing things. So like, I had a short window of time. So I went out and I shot the exterior, and then I was like, I shot some interior stuff, and then it was getting dark, and I was like, all right, whatever. I didn't get to the engine compartment yet, or like the trunk.
right,
And then I didn't realize we are having a nor'easter for 3 days.
right.
It's been pouring rain for 3 days and windy. So I don't have all the pictures I want to submit yet. So the submission's like halfway filled out.
How many pictures did they recommend you take?
Minimum 50.
Huh. This is like a fact-finding mission for me because, I'm in that field now, the auction company. I was kind of curious how it went over there.
It's interesting. So yeah, all right. I might as well go through it because a lot of people haven't done it before. So
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting to hear that side of things.
Sign up with an account, click, sell my vehicle. This is on Cars and Bids.
Okay.
And then it says, all right, give us at least 12 photos of your vehicle, answer some basic questions. Do you own it? Is it listed anywhere else? Anything major wrong with it? Like 4 or 5 questions like that. Click submit, and then you'll hear from us within a business day. Okay. It was like super quick. Like it seemed like I got the email in the middle of the night or something.
Sure.
So then it lets you go through the next steps. You got to do some other questions, a little bit more information about the car. You need to send them a picture of your title because it asks you, do you have is there a lien on the car? do you have the title? Is the title in your name? Because I suppose I could be, say I
Yeah,
wanted to sell one of my grandfather's cars, I could be selling it for him,
all
titled in his
the
name.
thing they're most concerned about is skip title, where you're not a dealer and you have it signed from the seller but not in your name.
Ah,
That's one of the big things people try to pull all the time. We deal with that a lot at our auction company,
yeah, because
and
they don't
we
want to
we
spend the few bucks to title it because it adds another owner.
all adds another owner. Plus, they got to pay taxes depending on what state they're in.
Yeah,
So we will not sell something on a skip title. However, you know, if if somebody said like, "Oh, I'm selling it for my uncle," like there'd be no way to prove it. You know what I mean? But yeah,
yeah,
we won't do a skip title.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, I filled that out. There's some more questions like, you know, what's the condition of the car, or they're like, oh, they asked like, is it stock? Is it modified? What's the engine size? So of course this car is completely stock. Put the engine size in. Notable features, quirks and features.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Basically, I put, it's a touring model with the special spoiler, the BBS wheel package, got a viscous rear diff. Um,
It's the good
eh,
one.
yeah, anything else that you have with it, like I've got the owner's manual, I've got the spare keys, the original key, two original keys, and a valet key. I've got the original window sticker. I have the original purchase and sales agreement. Um, so stuff like that. There's some. It asks you like how much service history do you have. I had up to in the little packet. If you went to an Infinity dealer, I could actually find the service information because they were all hooked together by Infinity had
Sure.
their own system called
Yep.
Infinity Net. I'm not going to do that because I don't care enough. Um, Car's old. It's in low mileage and decent shape. Like you're going to buy it at auction too. Like
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
it's not a PPO car.
Yep.
Um, you can. It's I have some stuff that was back to like 15, basically like oil changes, inspections.
Sure. It's all the same stuff that probably pops up in the
Yeah,
Carfax anyway.
exactly. Yeah, they wanted the VIN because I'm sure they run a Carfax on it.
I'm sure they do. They probably have a system like we do where we have a pass fail system with Carfax. And if the car fails that, we don't even bother going any deeper. If the car passes that, then we'll order the full Carfax.
Uh,
Yeah.
so basically stuff like that. Then I answered some other questions like any cosmetic stuff, which it does. It's got a little. There's a tiny rust bubble on the right rear above the bumper cover on the quarter panel, which is the only spot I've seen on the whole car.
Yep.
It's got some scratches in the paint that really need somebody. I could try it with a little compound, but it's not going to go away. Like a real detailer needs to do it with
Sure.
an orbital.
A full paint correction.
Yeah, and I'm just not willing to do that because it looks. You saw the pictures I posted. It presents really well.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's in 1995. So,
yeah, and supposedly they had a lot thicker paint because it was a luxury vehicle. So somebody can clean it up if they want, or they can just drive it as is.
yep.
It's got a couple door dings. It looks like ask questions like any body work, which I believe the bumpers were resprayed because I think it was a New York City car, and it spent time in the city. The original
That,
owners from Long Island.
that makes sense with the mileage.
Yeah, and it definitely looks like they were repainted. Um, I tried to fix the fog light, but it's banged up. Like somebody hit like a parking curb with it, bent
Okay.
it. But it's not that bad. I noted that. I'm gonna take pictures. I figure what I do. There's also one spot in the driver's fender that's like a few inches of where clear coat's peeling. I have a little metal ruler. I'll go around all the trouble spots, because I took really nice, beautiful pictures. Like it looks really cool, so you get the idea of how nice the car looks. I'll go around and take detail photos of the little imperfections. Just represent what the car is. It's an honest car.
Yep. Yeah. Honest seller, honest
Anything
car.
anything that doesn't work, I just let them know that the right rear or the left rear window regulator doesn't really work that well. The 10-disc CD changer doesn't work. It's just all stuff like that.
Right.
And then I think once I get through that, once I upload all the pictures, then the next steps it says is like scheduling and yeah, and then whenever the auction runs, and hopefully it sells.
So that's very similar to our process at Auto Hunter. So we do um, cars get submitted with a minimum of 6 pictures, and then we talk to you about whether we even want to run it or not, because we have obviously cars need to meet the curation standards,
So
which
you have
cars
like a human contact though? Like I haven't even talked to a human yet through
Oh
email,
yeah.
nothing.
So you initially submit the car, and there's no human contact. What happens is it comes through, and one of my jobs is I get the car in the submitted file. I take a look at it. I put what I think is a reasonable reserve request, or I look at their reserve request. I put what I think is a reasonable number. If their number's fine, I'll run it there. If their number's not fine, I'll be like, all right, well, you wanted 27 grand. I'm looking through all these comparable cars that are sold at auction, combined with cars that are for sale, the historical data. I think the car is going to a good reserve that guarantees the car will be sold, and is still a comfortable number for us, is 23,000. And then what happens is I forward it to a new place, and one of our sales reps will look at it, and they will make an actual phone call to the customer at that point. So that's one of the things that we're real high on is phone calls, because none of the other auction sites do phone calls. So
Yeah,
that's one of our, like, we have that human back and forth connection with the customer, because especially where we do cars and bids is 80s through modern, right?
yeah. I bet your demo likes a phone call.
Our demo skews older because we do a lot of 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s stuff. So they really like a phone call. They like to talk about their car. They like to tell us the quirks and features of the car. And then what'll happen is, before the sales rep gets too deep into the phone call with the customer, they'll be like, listen, we have a person in the shop here. His job is classic car specialist. His entire job is to monitor the market. He thinks that a good reserve price would be $23,000. Are you comfortable with a reserve of 23,000? Well, I wanted 27. Well, you're asking 27. Somebody's going to come to your door and they're going to offer you 25. They're going to offer you 24. We're giving you the guarantee that the car won't sell unless it hits 23. So you have that safety net of 23. And then, the classic car specialist also found all of these other cars that have sold much similar to yours, and in this range of price. I see some for 21, some for 25. We just want to kind of hit it in the middle and make sure we get a sale on your car.
Yeah,
that kind of a deal. So
that big important number is that sale through number, right?
we don't want to run cars and then not have them sell. And it's not just selfish. Like, obviously, if we have a 10% sell through, nobody wants to sell a car. They're not going to spend the money because the cars don't sell. So the higher the sell through number is, the better, obviously.
Yeah.
But the other issue is that is, in the age of the internet, once your car goes through auction with the VIN number, it's Google searchable forever.
Ooh.
So if you try to sell your car and it doesn't sell and it only bids to whatever, then your car forever is now flagged on the internet as, hey, this car only bid to 16. He's looking for 32. What's wrong with this car? Why did nobody want this car then? So we're not going to run somebody's car for some ridiculous number because we don't want to flag the car forever. It's sure, we want our sell through, but we also don't want to, mark the car per se. Like, it just becomes a mark, and that's very easy to search VIN numbers. And I've had more than one occasion where a customer submits a car and they're like, oh, I want 30 grand for this. And I'm searching the internet for comparable cars for sale, and I'll find that exact car they bought at some other auction for half that.
Yeah.
And then we're not gonna run a reserve of double what they just paid for it, because if the market was there, then it would have been up at the other auction site.
I know. It wasn't half that 10 years ago.
Right.
It was, because that would be understandable. Right?
Yeah, if it's many years in between, we'll have a conversation. But if we have one that sells in July, and you come back to me in August and you're like, oh, I want 30 grand for this thing. Well, I see you just bought it for 15.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think it's worth more. That's nice. It might be. We're going to run it with a reserve of 15 because that's what it bid to last month, and the same buyer base is going to find this car for sale. And if somebody finds the thing is worth 30, then they'll bid it up above 15. But we're not not in the business of, flipping cars. That's not what auctions are. Auctions are to get cars in front of an audience, and If the car was recently in front of an audience, chances are pretty good it's going to perform the same again.
I feel like it too. Um, it's the fair market value. So like,
Auctions are definitely fair market value.
so everybody has it. Unlike, so right. So say I listed this Q45 for whatever amount, and everybody's like, "That's too much. I'm not paying that. I'll offer you this."
Yep.
And it goes round and round like that forever. Eventually, I'm like, fine, and I just sell it for whatever that price is.
Right.
That's just kind of annoying, right? But
Sure.
that's kind of how you just sell cars that aren't like, or just like whatever.
I mean,
Like
that's how we've
that's how I
sold
sold
cars
my
our
WRX,
entire
right?
life.
Yeah, that's like the way I sold my WRX, right?
Yeah.
But like, um, a car that is nice enough that I think should go to an online auction because I want more people to see it than just Facebook Marketplace dweebs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whatever price it gets bid to, that's the price. Like that's what the car
Yeah.
is worth.
100%. There are extenuating circumstances. There could be a car isn't photographed very well, so it doesn't
Yeah,
perform as well as auction as it would with better photographs, and that's definitely a thing. And I see it every day. Like a car with bad photographs is never going to get as much traction as a well photographed car. And I don't just mean like, a perfect setting in front of a sunset with, mountains in the background. I mean a nice clear shot that highlights the car and makes the car look good. If you don't have that shot, then people aren't spending, they're not spending the premium to buy your car that you took 2 seconds to roll out of your garage and snap a couple pictures of with a cell phone.
yeah,
And that's the hardest thing to get people to understand is that they need to take good photos of their car. We even offer, I'm sure Cars and Bids probably does too, a professional photo service.
yep,
You pay whatever for a half-hour session or an hour session, and you get professional done photos of your car. And I guarantee you that if I pulled numbers for cars that had professional photos versus not, those cars with professional photos perform better at auction in the end.
they absolutely do.
So it's so hard to get people to understand that, and
Well,
especially
especially, yeah, if you're selling a car that's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars,
yeah,
and you're balking over paying someone $200 to $300 to shoot it,
it's not even that much.
yeah, it's not even that much for some
Yeah.
of them.
So what kills me is you get this person who first of all wants to argue the price of their car. Like, oh, I think it's worth more. Okay, it might be, but we need to put it to auction and find out because none have ever sold for that much before. Maybe yours is the one that will, but I can't make that promise, so I'm not going to make that promise. Well, these pictures are fine. Sir, if you want to have the highest sale on record ever for this car, you should probably take a little time and at least back it out of the garage.
Yeah.
These pictures are fine. And then my line is always, well, would you spend $50,000 based on these pictures?
Yeah,
Or would
they're
you
in
want
dark,
more?
they're in shadow.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really funny like exercise of the human condition, I guess, when in this day and age of 2021 with cell phones, you have a screen in front of you that shows you exactly what the picture is going to look like when you click take the picture. And
Hmm.
people still can't follow a basic photo guide. That blows my mind. Like some people
Yeah,
don't want to spend the money on professional photos. Great. You have a cell phone. You think it takes the best pictures in the world. You think you're the next Ansel Adams with an iPhone. Maybe you are. But when you have your thumb in front of the picture or the car is sideways or you cut off, the very corner tip of the car, like you have the screen in front of you. Like you know what this picture is going to look like before you take the picture. What are you doing? It's very frustrating.
I know. I use my phone a lot, and then like especially this year, I haven't used it as much as my nice camera. And then I pull out my nice camera and I'm like, oh god,
Right.
that's so much better. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you
what
take
am
the
I
picture with
doing?
your phone and you can take a great picture. But then
Yeah,
you take that same shot with your camera and you're like the depth and the color and everything is just it's so much sharper. It's just such a nicer image. And that shows huge on an online auction. It shows absolutely huge on an online auction. So it is what it is. People will learn eventually, but right now they're being stubborn. So
so anyway, I gotta find some time. I probably won't. I got some other stuff coming up that we'll talk about. It'll probably be when I'm back, and I'll finish that listing. So
excellent. Do you have undercarriage shots too?
I had some and I pulled them on my computer, but I didn't use my lights that I
Okay.
have,
You should definitely take some because
and
they make a
I
huge
don't like
difference.
I know, and I don't like the way these came out because they were just straight out of the cell phone with
Yep.
not enough light.
Yep.
and they look grainy and weird and
Yeah.
color cast. It makes it look worse than it
Yeah.
actually is.
Yeah. I would definitely put it on the lift and use some lights and take some good shots. It's
Yeah, I'll use my actual lights. And then I got to
from
do. Oh, they also recommend some like walk around videos, which
yep.
is fine. I can do that. A
Walk
start
around
cold start
video,
video.
cold start video, and an acceleration video,
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
to show everything.
Yep.
Yeah, the more effort you put into this part, the more money you get for the car every time. You know, you look at the top seller on Bring a Trailer. I think his name he goes under the username 911R. Just search the username 911R on Bring a Trailer and look at that guy's listings, and he gets top dollar for everything he sells.
And he's just like a dealer.
He's a dealer
Sounds
out of
right.
like Portland, Oregon, or somewhere,
Hmm.
but he has like artistic magazine quality photos for every car he does.
Yeah.
And they're stunningly gorgeous, and he gets, I'd say a solid 15 to 20% more for the same car than somebody else would.
It sounds cheesy, but you got to sell the dream.
Yep. I had
You
that
know,
same conversation with a customer selling an FJ, like an FJ 40.
and it's
You know,
not.
it's like,
It's not even being like a hokey used car slick salesman. Like, no, you just want to. I'd like to pass this on to some other enthusiasts. It's not. I'm not trying to
yeah,
pass off a clunker.
yeah, no, and we had that conversation with a guy with an FJ 40, like a 78 or something. He had all these pictures of his car in a garage, and then one picture of the car like on a camping trip overlooking a vista. It's like, do you have more of those? Like, you're selling
Yeah,
an adventure vehicle. Let's make this happen.
exactly.
So I don't know. It's an interesting process. I'm learning a lot. I get super angry at the people who are like, these auctions are ruining the market value. No, these auctions are ruining you buying a cheap car and ruining it. They're
Yeah,
not ruining the actual, like,
you weren't gonna buy a car at auction anyways.
exactly.
You're the like keep scouring Craigslist, keep scouring Facebook. You'll find deals,
Yep.
like we said.
Yep. Not every car is up for auction right now. Like, there's plenty of cars out there.
There is.
You didn't buy this Infinity at auction, so
Nope.
there it is.
So what'd you do
Anyway,
to cars?
oh, I did lots of stuff. Let's see, what did I do? Where do we start? It's been a couple weeks since we talked about anything. I think last we left off, the Colt was giving me nightmares of the starter. We talked
I
about
think
that,
so.
right? Yeah. So I finally got a chance to take a look at the starter in the car to find out why it wasn't disengaging, and it was quite frustrating.
Yeah.
The starter is the same across a lot of Mitsubishis. So, like 1970 Dodge Colt through 1999 Montero is pretty much the same starter, right? Problem being that the gear, is there a name for that gear? The gear that actually it mounts to the
The Bendix?
Bendix. Is the gear the Bendix? The gear is not the Bendix. The little motor's the Bendix, right?
Yeah. I don't know
So
what that gear is. The bevel, it's a bevel gear.
the Bendix
Engages
gear, the
it
gear on the Bendix.
engages the flywheel. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's what directly connects the starter to the flywheel to start the car. So the problem is these starters are pretty much universal across Mitsubishi, but it turns out that there's different widths on that gear on the Bendix.
Yeah. And when
I
you
think
buy remans,
you
they
get
just
what you
get
get.
thrown in boxes,
Yeah,
and whatever comes back comes back. They get mixed up,
yeah, which is
and
frustrating.
I think the same thing happened to you that happened to me with the Montero, where I got a 3-liter starter and I needed a 3.5 starter.
So it didn't quite reach, was too small.
No, it was still engaging.
Okay. Well, that's what happened with this. It would stay engaged, but not fully. So
No,
you
it
could
sounded
just,
horrible.
yeah,
Like
it sounded like you could hear the metal scraping on metal, basically.
yeah.
And after taking it out, I can see the damage on the end of the tooth from the flywheel spinning.
Mm-hmm.
So super frustrating. Um, the local rebuild shop is like 2 weeks out, which is super annoying. I was going to send the original one to the rebuild shop, but so I shopped around a little more on the internet and I looked closely at pictures, and I think I found one that has the smaller size piece on it, and I'm hoping it's true to the picture and not just going to be like a representative image of. Because I don't know how to change that gear out. Do you?
No, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably if you have all the right equipment, but I don't have that. So
I mean, you should just still drop the other ones off to be
so here's what
repaired.
here's what I'm doing. I ordered the starter. It was like a 4-day shipping thing. It was, I think, $35. It wasn't super expensive. I figure worst case scenario, I'll get it and it'll be wrong, and I'll send it right back to Rock Auto, and then I'll send off the other one to get it rebuilt. Um, Either way, I'm going to send off the other one and have it rebuilt, so I have a spare on the shelf. I did not send back the initial one that was wrong because I installed it and it's electrical and it'll probably be a nightmare to deal with them. But also, it was $15.
Oh, I sent the Bosch one back that I got from them
I
because
clearly,
it
I
was
clearly
100.
used.
Oh, I said it was installed. I said it didn't fit. It was $100.
Well, this was $15, and I'm assuming that it's the correct starter for a 2.6, which I have two cars with a 2.6 in them, so I'll just have it on hand because it works fine otherwise. You know what I mean? So I figured for $15, I know it works. It's got the wider gear. The wider gear is probably for the 2.6 or maybe the 3-liter V6, whatever. I'll eventually have one of those, I'm sure, and I definitely have a couple of 2.6s around that can use it. Doesn't take up much space in the parts shelf. It's fine. It's worth just having it, I think, for that particular case. But so anyway, I've ordered the starter. It's not here yet, so I can't tell you what happened. I just was super frustrated by it, but at least I figured out what it is, and it won't be too big a deal to take care of putting a new starter in. Now that I know how it fits in there so nicely, easily. That like hour and a half it took me to take it apart the first time was due to my own, I don't know, my own lack of looking in the right places. So, anyway, so that's all taken care of. If you remember back when I went to the Japanese show in Williams, Arizona, I took the Cressida and I had issues with the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about that. I was driving into the hotel up there after a long, 150-mile highway run. And we got out of the car and we smelled hot brakes. We got back in the car after checking into the hotel to drive to like the parking spot, and I could hear the right rear brake dragging. We backed out of the parking spot the next morning to go to the show because it was like 11 o'clock at night when we got there. I wasn't going to deal with it. And I heard a loud clank, but everything seemed fine. Put the car in drive and drove down the hill, and the right rear wheel kind of locked up. I put it in reverse, backed up a few yards, and everything kind of freed up, put it back in drive, and everything worked. So crossed our fingers, drove for the car show. The next day, we're like, well, we're going to cross our fingers because nothing seemed to go bad today. We drove it around town a little bit. We'll try to make it home, and I'll deal with it in the yard, in the garage, instead of trying to take this thing apart on the side of the road. So that worked out fine. We got home. Finally got a chance this week to dig into it, find out what was going on. I went ahead and bought all new brakes for the rear. So I bought shoes, wheel cylinders, and a hardware kit. I didn't buy drums because you can get them turned at the local parts store. Took the thing apart. Had a little trouble getting the drums off, and then I remembered the trick that we used to do at your dad's garage with that little hole and a bolt, and just buy a 8mm by 1.25 thread bolt to put in that hole to push the drums out off the shoes.
Yeah, it's either that or you go in there and you turn the adjuster to turn the shoes in.
Right, that could have worked too, but the easier way to do it was the bolt because the adjuster's in the back and it's just a pain. So it was easier just to do it this way with that bolt. So I did it with that bolt. Got the shoes off. Sorry, I got the drums off, and as I took the drum off, this little spring fell out. Obviously not ideal.
Ah.
It turns out what it was the top side return spring for the shoes. So basically, the wheel cylinder is mounted at the top of the backing plate, And when you step on the brakes, it pushes out to the front and the rear, the shoes, to engage them into the drum. And then it returns by having the spring pull it back in.
Yep.
So what had happened, why I smelled brakes, was apparently that spring had let go. I'm assuming pulling off of the highway, or maybe at some point in the road trip, and we are just going fast enough that it was just tumbling around inside there. And then when we stopped, it made its way down to the bottom and jammed up in between the shoe and the drum. So
Oh.
it was stuck in the bottom, and I could see a little damage on the lining of the shoes where it was like a little crack in the shape of the edge of the spring. So my
Hmm.
guess is it was just banging around inside when it broke, and then we stopped. It fell to the bottom. I drove away again, and it made its way. You know, probably when I put it in reverse, backing out of the spot, which is why I made a big clank. It probably found its way. Turning the opposite direction. It just
Pulled it
caught
out.
itself. It caught itself right and pulled it right um, into the shoe. And then when I went forward, it flung it back the other way to the point where it actually stopped that wheel. That's why I had that other big clunk and the wheel locked up. And then when I backed up, it freed it up enough, and I put it in drive, and it just kind of did its thing, and it found a place where it was out of the way. The entire rest of the trip home, the brakes never got super hot, but they definitely were smelling like brake. And taking that drum off is a lot of friction material that wore off, more so than on the passenger side. Because I took that side off to see where the spring was supposed to be. So it turns out that it's the upper return spring, and it has a hook to go into the shoe, and then it has like 4 coils, and then a straight piece, and then like 8 coils, and then a hook for the other shoe, and it's snapped in between the two sections of coils. So
Yeah.
I guess it was just like, hey, man, I'm 40 some odd years old, you know, 1979. So what's that, 42 years old? So it's a 42-year-old brake part. And it was like, nope, I'm done. My spring tension is gone. I've had enough. So I think that's what happened. But the good news is I didn't need to buy all the other parts because everything else looks in good shape. The
Mm.
linings have almost exactly the same millimeter meat on them that the new ones do. The wheel cylinders are working. Everything's dry. So I didn't have to do a brake job. I just had to pull the spring out and put the new spring in. It was a little challenging getting the spring in there, but it's in there. And I actually took a shakedown drive with the car today. I took it to work this morning just to make sure everything would be fine before I drive it to LA for the weekend. And everything seemed to work. So we are go for the trip to LA. Now, the bad news,
What's that?
I went to change the idler arm in the front because the bushings are worn out of the one in
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And the one we got for the junkyard was good until I
Uh-huh.
started messing with it and the bushings all failed.
Uh,
So it'll be another road trip with a worn out idler arm, which, while not dangerous, is annoying.
oh.
Yeah, nothing's going to
Didn't find
fall.
a chassis shop out there yet?
I found a shop that's going to rebuild it, but I have to send it to them.
Ah.
So I also found out that White Line makes the bushings to rebuild them.
Oh.
But the problem is they're in Australia and they're like the shipping time right now with all of the shipping issues with COVID.
Oh.
Instead, if I ordered them yesterday, I'd have them by like January 25th.
Really? They can't do like DHL or something?
It was on eBay. I didn't call them or anything.
Yeah.
I was just annoyed at that shipping time. So I ran their White Line part number and tried to find a source somewhere in the States, and nobody has them. But what I will do is I'll probably send them an email, probably first of the year. They make all the bushings for the front of the car.
Interesting.
Yep. So I will buy a full bushing kit from them at some point, and it'll probably never break again.
No.
So the other news about that actually is I had got in that one from the junkyard, and this is why the thing all fell apart, because the one from the junkyard, the arm was longer than the one in my car by a solid half an inch,
Weird.
which doesn't make any sense. So either mine's wrong or the junkyard one is wrong, and I'm not sure.
Hmm.
So that's why I was going to swap out bushings from the junkyard one to mine, and they didn't. They did not survive. We'll put it that way. So, so it is what it is. You know, all the best laid plans, right?
Check Super Pro too. They might make stuff.
Super Pro also has it, but they're also in Australia. It has the same issue.
Mm.
Yep. So I think it's the same bushing kit as a Toyota pickup, but I'm having a hard time confirming it
Yeah.
because they sell them in a kit, and the Toyota pickup one comes with some other stuff too. So not that I can get any of them because they're also all in Australia, but it is what it is. I'll deal with it when I get back from the trip. The only annoying thing is that it clunks pretty good because the bushings are blown out of it. And it wanders a little bit because the purpose of the idler arm is basically to keep everything centered. It's to keep it running straight down the road.
Yeah.
So when the bushing's blown out and you get a half inch of play, the car has a half inch of wander, which again isn't the end of the world. It tracks pretty straight. It's aligned fine. It's not going to wear out the tires. It's not dangerous. Everything's still nice and solidly mounted. The bushing's just blown out. So it is what it is. I'm just going to deal with it and worry about it when we get back. I am bringing another one that I have that's also too long, which is also strange, which is why I'm thinking the one in the car is wrong, but I need to do some more research now. I'm bringing it with me in case there is some kind of a failure point. It's not perfect, but it's better than the ones in the car, but it's also too long, so I wasn't just going to put it in, I'm having a hard time figuring it out, so we'll see what happens. I do a little more digging, a little more research, but worst case scenario is a shop in California that I take mine apart, I drop it in the mail, they rebuild it and send it back. It's like a 5-day turnaround. It's not a huge deal. I just don't have 5 days now because I thought I had all the parts to put it back together, right? But I don't. So obscure car problems, right?
Yeah.
I'll deal. Life goes on. Worst case scenario, I could tow it to California if I had to, I guess.
All right. So anyway, events. Then I guess that gets us into events. I didn't talk about going to Japanese Car Day at Lars Anderson.
Okay, because we had Andy on.
Yeah. That was super fun. I took the G20. I took my son, and putting a car seat in the G20. That's why cars are so giant now, because rear-facing car seats barely fit in that car.
Yeah, you basically need to take the passenger seat out of the car.
Yeah. I had to put. I was like, well, my dad was planning on coming, but he wasn't feeling well, so I was like, man, well, if he did come, he would have been up like his knees in the dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could have put him in the center of the rear.
Is there a shoulder belt in the center?
No, but it doesn't matter because the seatbelt passes through
the bottom section.
The bottom section of the seat.
That's right too.
But then it probably would have interfered with both seats.
Right.
it's crazy.
Yep.
But I basically took that car because it's like the quietest, comfortable car.
Yeah, well, and you were planning on taking the Galant to the next show you talk about, so
yeah,
it's nice to have a little variety. Plus, nobody's ever seen that car there before.
No, I ran into a bunch of people.
I saw other people take pictures of it and post them, so obviously it went over pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Our buddy Chris with the Delica let my son run around and play inside the Delica for a little while.
He must have loved that.
Oh, he did love that. He instantly found one of Chris's son's probably old Hot Wheels buried in the cup holder.
Yeah.
Yeah, your dad was there with his.
Yeah, he brought the Celica, Supra, right?
Super Celica? Celica Supra?
Not a Supra, it's a Celica. So, in that generation of Celica, the Supra was also a Celica, but it was a Celica Supra. It had a longer nose, and it had an inline six, where the Celica was a 4-cylinder. So the cars are identical from the firewall back.
Yeah, I was gonna say the rear is like the same, but the nose is different.
Yes, it's a longer fenders and stuff on the Supra.
Weird.
To house the 6-cylinder.
So yeah, Osaka Flacco was there. Was R32?
Yep. Paul.
There's a bunch of stuff there.
Yeah, if you start listing off all of our friends that were there, you're gonna miss somebody inevitably.
Yeah.
So we'll just say you saw a bunch of people.
Well, I will say, so having gone to the show for easily the last 15 years or so.
Yep, at least that.
It's gotten way, way bigger.
Yep.
Way bigger. It's cool.
The appreciation of Japanese cars has gone way up.
I remember when there was like 30 cars there.
Yep.
And now they filled the upper and lower half of Lars Anderson.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good take.
A lot of JDM imports. Hopefully, people can keep them.
Yeah, it's
Lots of younger people with older cars.
it's neat. A friend of mine from the West Coast who lives in California, you probably remember seeing pictures of his black Dodge Challenger, like '83 Dodge Challenger. So it's the Dodge version of the Sapporo. It's
Yeah,
black, black.
I met him at a Radwood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
Um,
had it at the LA Radwood that you weren't at in
correct,
2019.
correct.
Yeah.
So I was just playing around Instagram the day before Japanese Car Day, and I saw somebody posted videos down on their stories at Salem Willows, and I was like, "Oh, Salem Willows, I missed that." And I was like, "Wait a second, he lives in California." So I messaged him. I was like, "Hey, you're in my hometown," and he's like, "Oh, wild, that's crazy." And I started talking to him, and I was like, "Hey, you looking for car stuff to do? There's Japanese Car Day tomorrow in Boston." And he goes, "Really? I was looking for something to do. That sounds perfect." So that was pretty neat. He got to go experience the East Coast version of what he's used to out in the West Coast.
Yeah, it was a nice day for it too.
Yeah, it was
So
a perfect day for it, and he was actually pretty impressed with the cars that were there. I mean, it's not the same stuff as JCCS. It's a lot of
no,
more modern stuff. Not necessarily modern, but like, 90s modern, and a
yeah,
lot more of the JDM import stuff. But he said it was an awesome time. So
hmm
he was definitely stoked to be able to experience a little bit of both coasts versions of it. So if you want to follow him on Instagram, his Instagram handle is 710 Datsun. So 710 and the word Datsun. So
yeah. So I had super fun. Son had fun. It was a good day out. We were only there till like noontime, so it worked out well.
yeah, well, it's life with a kid, right? You can only entertain him for so long, and you got to change scenery.
Oh, he was falling asleep by noontime.
Okay,
That's his nap time.
yeah, also part
Um,
of it.
so then the following weekend, this past weekend, was the Radwood display at Greenwich Concourse, which was pretty interesting. Apparently, that concourse used to be a 2-day thing, so they do foreign cars on Saturday and American cars on Sunday.
I've never heard of that being a thing anywhere before. That's interesting.
Yeah, so then they were bought by Haggerty, and they've changed some stuff up.
Everything's been bought by Haggerty.
Mm-hmm. Not necessarily a bad thing. Quality of like everything there was like super nice. As far as like facility and like plenty of like food vendors and stuff. So then they changed Saturday to like more fun stuff. They kept saying. So they had a concourse.
It's a nice way of saying accessible for normal people.
Yeah, more normcore cars.
Yeah,
Um, instead of like cars from the 20s you've never heard of.
that are worth $12 million.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, I have no emotional attachment to this vehicle because it was built 50 years before I
It
was
was built for
born.
the King of Prussia in 1910. Why do I
Yeah,
care? Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Um, and so there was like Concours de Le Mans, Radwood display, and then some thing was Porchella, which I think it was supposed to look like the Coachella logo, but it was Porchella.
so it's
Porchella.
Porsches.
Celebrating the modified Porsche.
Okay,
But it's, I was like, okay, like,
that's a stretch.
listen, like,
I guess
I
some of it
mean,
from the
they were
outside.
kind of, yeah, they were kind of jokey about it. They're like, yeah, it turns out they built a million 911s,
Yeah,
and there was a bunch of customized ones. But you're like, I don't know, is a customized 911 that special anymore? Like, there's a lot of them,
for a
and I get
while.
it,
Yeah, for a while they weren't okay, but now they're accepted. So
man. I would love like a narrow body car, super cool. Wide body car, super cool. Long nose, like they're super. The early air cooled, super cool.
yep.
Completely unattainable because they're so goddamn expensive.
Yeah, I can't think of a 911 I wouldn't want to own, other than an automatic modern one. I mean, they're good cars. They're neat cars. I've caught some flack for my opinions on 911 people recently, but at the end of the day, I get it.
Oh, there were some of these people there. I
They're
mean,
they're a great car. They're
They
just,
did like they were doing like roving reporting, like interviews, and they had a giant like TV screen.
which I saw was really neat.
That was very cool.
Yeah,
But they interviewed this guy with like a brand new 911 GT2 blah 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 point
sure.
4.6 something.
0.2 3/4.
But the claim to fame with this car was that he was told that it was as much customization as you could ever do with a Porsche. Porsche wouldn't customize it any more
Sure.
than he had already done. So it had some ridiculous paint to sample color, some ridiculous rose gold wheels. The boot was lined with leather as opposed to carpet. It matched the interior and like all this stuff. And the guy's like interviewing the owner. He's like, "So do you drive this?" And the guy's like, "Actually, I don't. I have other cars I drive more." He's like, "I just look at this one in the garage." And it's just like, okay.
Wow, that's lame.
It's like,
I wish I had 150 grand to park in the garage.
this is probably a $300,000 car with all these
Whatever.
custom
Yeah.
add-ons. But yeah, it was.
I wish I had 10 grand to park in the garage, you know? Like, it's a little crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot of it feels like self-congratulatory stuff. You're like, okay,
And that's
cool.
what it is, because he is a guy who has a lot of money. He went to Porsche and he said, build this for me. And he's never done anything but park it at a car show.
Yeah, it's a one of one. Okay,
Sure. So that's the most self-congratulatory you could be. Like, you've put zero effort into this and you don't even drive it.
I mean, my Galant is one of one because there's no other Galant that looks exactly like mine.
Every car is one of one. You come down to it.
Yeah,
You know, my 13 Jetta is the only one with the exact miles on it, and you know, a little dent in the middle of the back bumper, and you know, peeled paint on the hood edge, like in the exact way mine is. Like, if you want to get down to it, that's where we're at. My clear coat looks like a Jackson Pollock, therefore I am a one of one Volkswagen, and I should ask a ton of money for it. But yeah,
yeah,
people can be a little obtuse about that stuff. I see it obviously with some of the muscle car people, you know, selling muscle cars. They get, you know, this car was built on a Tuesday, and no other car built on a Tuesday has, you know, a 373 rear with
yeah.
14-inch wheels. Like, oh, okay, cool.
So yeah, whatever. Cool part was Radwood was like at the waterfront.
Yeah,
Apparently,
I saw that.
they were like, oh yeah, they used to put tents there instead, and now we're parking cars there along the waterfront.
Like, it's way pretty location.
Way, yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
So they had like 50 car display. I was one of two Mitsubishis, so my Galant.
The other one was me.
Yeah, your doppelganger.
Yeah,
This very nice kid. I cannot remember his name.
Ethan,
Ethan.
right?
Yeah.
Baumgartner or something.
Yep. And his partner, I can't remember her name. Sorry, if you're listening, I did tell them about the podcast. We had a Mitsubishi friendly podcast.
So this is the first podcast you're going to listen to, and you botched it all.
It's all right. So I didn't realize at first that it was a turbo car because I just looked at it as far as a GS. But talking to him, it's an early car, 89 GS. So it's actually a turbo. So basically the launch car that's in all the brochures, not the launch car, but the optioned launch car.
Selena.
Yes.
Anyway,
That's right.
moving on.
So it looks just like your car, which is a 93.
Correct.
But this is an 89 and it's a turbo.
So the way that car looks,
Mm-hmm.
so it's the red Eclipse with the black rub strips all the way around.
Yep.
It
Not
has
a wide, doesn't have the wide body kit that the later cars had, the GSXs had.
correct. It doesn't have the fiberglass rocker covers that make it wider. It has like the rocker covers that are pinched in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So that car only looked like that in late 89, early 1990 in the States.
Yeah.
And
But that is the car that's on the brochures. Like, that's what I mean when I say it's the launch car. Like, when you see pictures
correct.
of the Eclipse being launched, that was the options. It's like a
that
early
car
Miata.
that car is the reason that I bought my car, because I love the look of the launch car. But the only way to get the look of the launch car was to either buy a mid 89 build or a Euro import that looked the same until the 90s, which is weird. They didn't do any of the other changes. because even the GS in the States didn't look the same after that body style had changed a little.
Nope. Nope.
And the
And then
neat
the
part,
GS became a non-turbo.
well, and the neat part about that is it's a GS turbo, not a GST.
Mm-hmm.
So it's labeled on the back. It just says Eclipse GS, and then under it says turbo 16 valve, right?
Yeah.
So whereas the immediately in 1990 it went to GS T for the turbo. So it's really
Really nice
neat to see an
car.
early car. And
Yeah.
I as much as I love my car, seeing that car and it being a turbo, I'm like, oh
So he
man,
picked that up from the original owner out of upstate New York. 70,000 miles on it. Guy never drove it in the winter. It's got no rust on it.
it's a beautiful car.
Beautiful. It's pure. Yeah, perfect. It's got a couple dents on it. He's going to have PDR'd, but talking to him about it, he's like, yeah, I don't really want to modify this car. I'm like, good.
Yeah, perfect.
Because it's, and he agreed with me, and I agree with him. It's like, it's never going to, those cars are so rare now.
Yep.
That particular spec of car is never going to exist again.
Nope.
If he wants one, you can find a later car to play
Yeah,
with.
if you want to build a hot rod, buy one that's already hot rodded.
Yeah.
Plenty of them out there. If you find a 70,000 mile original DSM, don't take it apart. Just
No.
enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. They're very good in
Yeah.
stock form.
Yeah, they're not going to
miss-
win any drag races. They're not going to win any autocrosses, but they're just a very nice driving car.
Yeah. As time and space allows, I will probably have a stock all-wheel drive DSM at some point.
Sure. Or even a front drive early car like that is fine too.
Yeah.
Again, we're not looking for a race car here. We just want something that drives nice. And I after seeing that car, it makes me want to possibly get rid of mine and find that spec with the turbo. But it is what it is. It would be nice here in the mountains
Mm-hmm.
to have a turbo car.
Yeah, so that was a really cool car. There was a really late Di Tommaso that won Radisson show.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was at first. I was looking at it. I was like, "Is this a Maserati?
So it's
Is this
Pantera.
is this a?" I thought it was a Lister at first.
Yeah,
I didn't know what it was.
it's a
And then when
late.
somebody said Di Tommaso Pantera, and I was like, "Oh, I could see it in the like B pillars,
Yeah,
or C pillars."
the A pillar, the like B pillar window, the windshield,
Yeah,
and they're a modernized version of the Campagnolo alloys.
yeah. It was like one of the last cars off the line or something crazy.
Yeah, and it's still owned by Di Tommaso, I think was the story
It's
behind
owned
it.
by. They told us the guy that was showing it told us it's owned by Miller Motor Car Company, which is a dealership group down there.
Okay.
Who was the last dealer for Di Tommaso? So, who owns the rights to Di Tommaso or something? I don't know. They're trying to bring back the name and bring back it. There's some concept car out there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, so it's a 91 De Tomaso Pantera 90 SI.
Yeah.
So I don't like Pantera GTSs. So this early Panteras that came out in the 70s, like, Elvis's yellow car, chrome bumpers, no add-on flares, no anything. As they went into the 80s, they got some fiberglass flares. They got a fiberglass style, Countach style rear spoiler. They got some big old, crash bumpers, and I
It's like
don't like them.
it's like that car did, C3 Corvettes did,
Yeah. So
Coutages did.
it
Like
got all
everything
that
went.
garbage, and then through the 80s, the bumpers got smaller, but they kept the big flares and the big wing, and I never liked it. But this corrects all of that.
Yeah, it's an
This car is
interesting
amazing.
car.
Yeah, it's an amazing car. I love it. It's crazy to think that Pantera literally was built from 1970 until 1991.
Yeah,
Like,
and then the best domestic was a Choo Choo Customs
yep.
El Camino. I guess like original owner has owned it a long time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I recently did a bunch of research into Choo Choo Customs because we were selling one through our auction site.
Yeah.
And they only very recently went out of business.
Hmm.
They were doing like pickup truck. So those pickup trucks you see at dealerships from time to time throughout the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
It would be like an extended cab pickup with like this fiberglass flare kit that went into fiberglass side steps, and it faded from like beige in the bottom until white on top. So that's what Choo Choo was doing all through the 90s and early 2000s.
Fiberglass
So,
Masters.
Yeah, they are for sure. And the one thing I've recently noticed about Choo Choo Custom El Caminos is that depending on the base car, and most of them were SSs, so most of them had the body molding on the side. Um, they never changed the body molding, so it ends where the wraparound chrome bumper would have met it, and it just stops at the where they put that Monte Carlo SS style urethane nose on.
Yeah,
So it just looks dumb on every single one of them. And I know your thoughts on El Caminos anyway, but I've decided that as a kid I loved El Camino Choo Choo Customs, but as an adult I don't like them at all.
yeah. But this car was really cool and nice, I guess. So
You're like it's an El Camino, so I guess
yeah, I'm not
it's
as
just
on principle. I can't like it, but
well the
I
Monte SS
understood why they picked it.
the Monte SS with that same nose that they styled the El Camino Choo Choo Custom after. It always looks wrong when you look at it from the side because there's so much front overhang in front of the wheels because they added all that extra stuff. And it was for aero for NASCAR is why they did it, but
Yeah,
it looks weird in the direct profile view. I would still drive a Monte SS. I don't think I would pick up a Choo Choo Custom El Camino at this point.
and then the best import was a immaculate Audi 4085
Yeah, it's
CS.
perfect.
Uh,
CSQ.
just like your car,
Yeah,
but like
immaculate.
showroom
Immaculate.
fresh.
Yeah, like my car. If my car was nice.
I mean, the fender wells were still bright red.
Yep.
I didn't look at what the mileage was, but it was perfect.
I don't know. I follow him on Instagram. I've seen the car around there a few times, so it was
Um,
neat to see it there. But
I was looking at it with the warranty. I stuck my head in. He even had like it just hit me with a nostalgic because it had like the pine tree smell, the pine tree air freshener. I was like, oh, that's
okay,
80s too, right
yeah.
there.
Instagram user T44 Brian.
Yeah,
He's an Audi collector. He's got a bunch of Audis.
that
So
tracks. Yeah,
yeah,
there was a yellow, the
actually,
pale yellow T5R
I'm
wagon
not
that was really cool.
I'm not convinced that I sold him the mud flaps in that car.
It's possible.
Yeah, as I sold them to a guy who was in Connecticut, and they were brand new in the box, and the ones in the car looked brand new in the box. So I would almost. It was so many years ago that I don't know, but I would almost bet that those are my old mud flaps on the car.
Probably.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, really cool car. Another car that doesn't exist around here because people actually use them in the wintertime.
Yeah,
So they rotted out.
like
And
mine.
then there was a 13,000 mile Fox Body GT. It was super clean.
That's cool.
I forget what year it was, but he was over there cleaning and he opened the door. Like it was so funny. The noise of the door opening, that latch click,
Yep.
like triggered a memory. I was like, I know that sound. Like it was just like, oh yeah, that's what these sound like.
Yep.
It was just funny. I was joking with him. I was like, oh, your door doesn't sag. He's like, nope.
You turned around expecting to see Joey or uh, Lenny behind you when you heard the door open.
Yeah, it's just funny. That works.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
some sounds do that. I'm sure that the opening and closing of the handle on that Audi would have done it for me because they all make
yeah.
that same clicking noise that every one of them does. Actually, my coworker's 944 has the same handles, and every
Uh,
time he opens the door, I can hear the Audi. I can feel like in my hands, I can feel like the weird motion I do to make the door open, like push
pinch.
down, but yeah, push down on the piece inside as you pinch it and like push the door in a little bit at the same time, like anti-theft door handles.
Mm. Then there was a super obscure Alada
Niva,
Nivea, Niva
Niva,
with a soft top.
NIVA. Yeah, those are cool
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're like the worst version of Montero.
Oh yeah, the worst version of any 4x4.
Yeah, but I like them.
Um. Then there was a base Lancia, so just a Delta,
Yep,
not a
not
Integrale,
integrale. Yeah, narrow body and
which is
everything.
interesting. So I've never seen one before. I've only ever seen Integrales because it's the only thing that people ever save
Yep.
or show. So it's kind of like, yeah, another Delta Integrale. I've seen them a bunch.
And you walk up to it and you're like, wait a second, this is boring looking.
Yeah. Um. Then there's a cool 190 Evo 2,
So
which I guess
that's
is a
the
pretty wild
same
car.
one that goes to Lime Rock usually, I'm sure.
maybe.
Yeah, I think it
I
is.
think, I think it's a different one because that one's like I feel like the one I saw there was like a pure black, and this one's like a metallic black.
No, the one that goes to Lime Rock's metallic black.
All right,
Yeah,
I don't remember. Um, I guess it's a pretty wild car. I don't know much about them.
there aren't many. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So yeah, there was some like really cool stuff there.
Yeah, it looked like a good time, and I know that historically the Radwoods at another event aren't, as not quite the same as a full Radwood as far as car content and the energy of the show, but it looked like it was a pretty good time still.
Oh, I got to call out the Isuzu stylist there too,
Yeah, of course.
because that was just really cool.
Yep.
That
He was
they
at
had such
Radwood
a.
Boston too, was he not?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's local. He's from Massachusetts.
yeah, I thought so.
It's just a cool. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on your name too. You came up and talked to me.
The guy
Um,
with the Isuzu
yeah, it's at slash Ricochet on
slash
Instagram,
Ricochet. Yep, there you go.
but I can't remember his first name.
Well, it's hard to remember people's
I'm
first
so
names when
bad.
you know them by their Instagram handle, and
Yeah,
then it's hard to remember later on what their actual name is. Scott, though, is his name.
yeah, yeah. That was a cool car. And then there was a bagged Alpha Spider. Did you see the pictures of that?
I did. Yep. Not a typical
It's not
car
for
you'd see
everyone,
run that way,
but it's
but it looks
cool.
good. Yep.
So there's a lot of cool stuff there. But yeah, definitely the energy's not the same. Wasn't as many people into it. It was more of like a exhibition, I guess, to show
Sure.
that there's stuff other than 1920s cars.
Well, I know you sent some pictures of the Concours de Le Mans, and I would much rather have been at the Radwood side based on those pictures. So there was
Yeah,
there was
I mean,
definitely
if
some neat stuff
you,
there, but you would call out somebody for a weird car group. That seems to be a weird car group.
I
So
mean, here's the thing: if you tickets were like $50 for a spectator ticket, I got a discount on ones through Haggerty. So originally, I bought them because I wasn't bringing a car,
right,
so it was like $80 for me and Stephanie. So, you know, you're paying $80 to go look at a bunch of Porsches,
sure,
some weird Lemons cars of questionable content, and the Ridewood cars, which are cool, but that's a lot of money.
yeah, it is a
And
lot of money.
then food and stuff is expensive there. So that's my fair critique of that. I think that's valid.
You had a good time, but it cost a lot of money.
It did for the value. I mean, there was stuff like there were some vendors. Yeah, you could spend some more money. I mean, they'd have a kids zone. Um,
They did or didn't?
Unfortunately, they did.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Stephanie and Marco weren't feeling well, so they stayed home. But still, it's like I don't know.
That's always
There
one of
could
my
be a little
favorite.
more.
That's always one of my
Right.
favorite parts of the Carlisle event space. They usually have a spot for the kids. They have a whole like playground and a chalk car they can ride on and activities for them. And when I used to go there, when Maria was much younger, we would spend some time over there with her. So
I was just
important to
I
have.
I thought that the concourse was also on Saturday, so I thought I would be seeing some really nice cars
Mm-hmm.
too. But that was only on Sunday, so I was a little bummed about that because I only went down for one day.
It also seems weird that the concourse there in Connecticut is so close to the concourse in Rhode Island. Like the Audrain
Not
only
really.
happened
It's
like
not.
3 weeks ago, right? I mean, time wise, not distance wise.
Uh,
It's the same area of the country. It seems weird they're both around the
I
same
feel like it
time.
was like more than a month ago.
Oh,
It's definitely. I mean, Greenwich is like might as well be a New York City suburb.
of course. Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying distance wise it's the same. I'm just saying it seems weird to have both, super high end, you know, Northeast shows within a couple weeks of each other. It felt like.
Yeah, I guess. Um. So yeah, I think those are some valid critiques. Otherwise, it was nice. Um. The
Excellent.
only like it's funny too though because you can't once you're there you can't leave till 4, which is pretty normal for most big shows. They don't
Sure.
want people leaving early.
Yeah, it's going to be the same at
Then
JCCS
it's
this coming
then it's
week.
just chaotic
Yep.
because you're trying to get through this crowd of people and you just can't.
Plus,
Shouldn't have.
insurance doesn't like that cars moving around people thing.
Yep.
I get it.
Um, yeah, I can't really think of much else.
Oh, this coming
But I
weekend,
mean,
then.
I was like ready to go at like 2.
Right.
I was like, all right, I'm ready to go home because I had a 3-hour drive. But
Yeah.
whatever, I
Happens.
hung out and
Which is
for the
why
long
they
time.
have the 4 o'clock rule, because they don't want people like you leaving. So
Yeah, because I had seen the whole show within 20 minutes.
sure,
Then I'm just milling about. I didn't have anybody to hobnob with, so no,
I
it
get it.
is.
So this coming weekend is JCCS. That's what this week has been all about for me. Getting the Cressida all ready to go. Mechanically, it's as sound as it's going to get now for the trip. Just need to spend tomorrow night detailing it, and then
Yeah,
heading out.
yeah. So this is why I couldn't get to finishing my listing for the Q45 because it worked out. I have some work to do at our California office next week, and it is 25 minutes from Angel Stadium.
Which is
So
perfect.
I made sure it was okay with my superiors. I was like, hey, if I go out early, is that fine? I'll cover my expenses for the weekend, and then I'll be there first thing in the morning to do stuff for work. And they're like, yeah, that's okay. So I'm flying out Friday. I'll be in LA, and I'll meet you guys there the morning of the show, which is cool because I've never been to JCCS.
Yeah, it'll be neat. It probably makes sense that we can just pick you up at your hotel or something and drive in together, because there is a charge for parking in the spectator lot too.
Depending on where you are, we'll
Yeah,
talk about
we
it
can
afterwards.
make it work. So because
Because
we're
it might be my office seems like it's a little bit off the beaten path. It's not in LA.
yeah, whatever.
It's east. It's East LA, West Phoenix.
That's yes, very West Phoenix,
Yeah.
very West Phoenix. So you'll be there before I will, because we're not leaving until after work on Friday. So
No, I get in enough time that I got to go to the office on Friday. That way I can call it a work day. Wink,
sweet.
wink. But go over some stuff first.
Yeah, unfortunately, I will be arriving pretty late. I think it's probably a solid 5 or 6 hours from here to there. So we're looking at potentially a midnight-ish arrival time. Which
I
I mean,
have rented a Mirage or similar.
sweet. Hopefully, it's a Versa.
Yeah, I actually really hope it's a Mirage. I've never driven one.
Yeah, no, I hope it's a Mirage too. But
I I left Mitsubishi right when they launched them, and the first like I did the training, and then I was like, my last week was that week that I did the training. They like brought us to a local hotel, like went over the whole car, and then I left to do a different job. I never got to drive one.
so it looks like it's about a 5.5 hour drive for me.
All
So
right.
hopefully, I can maybe sneak out of work a little bit early and get a head start and not be there at midnight. I'd like to get in town around 10 would be nice. Maybe meet up for dinner or something. But
Yeah.
figure it out. Hopefully that works out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And if it does,
No, I'll
good.
see you in the morning.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's really cool. I mean, when do they start? In like 04, 05 or something with JCCS?
So this is the
It's the 15th
15th.
year.
This is the
I guess.
15th year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've wanted to go probably since the first or second year they've had it.
Yeah.
You've gone before a couple times,
I went
and
without a car in 2010. No,
it just never worked
2012.
out.
2012. And then I went with a car the year before last. I took the Sapporo out there. And then last year, the event didn't happen. They had a virtual event.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year, they're having the real event again. So it gets bigger every year. So I'm imagining that this year is also bigger. It's
Mm-hmm.
not at, unfortunately, it's not at the picturesque location that it normally is at. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same vibe in a parking lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's normally at Marina Green Park in Long Beach, which is where the Queen Mary is docked, and it's like rolling grass field. over
Yeah, I don't
the
know what the
cove.
weather's going to be.
The weather is going to be 75 and sunny, so we should be good.
Okay. All right.
Um,
So not too hot.
it won't be bad. So, like I said, the problem is though it's not that same picturesque location that it usually is. So it might be a little. I don't know. We'll see. They had to make some changes because the park in Long Beach is a city run park, and the city didn't want to guarantee they weren't going to up COVID restrictions, and didn't want to give them enough notice on what they were doing. So, in order for them to schedule the event, they had to move to a non-city owned location
Mm,
because if they had, changed COVID restrictions a week before the show starts, then the show can't happen, and all the money is already spent. So it would not have been positive. So I mean, it's outside, so
right.
whatever, it is what it is. But it was moved down the road to Angel Stadium in Anaheim. So we'll see what happens. I'm very excited for it. Um, I know a ton of people from Phoenix who are going, so that's super cool. I'm assuming you're bringing the new stickers with you, so we'll have new stickers if anybody's there.
Definitely remind me. I got to pack them. I bring you
Okay,
some stickers.
pack them in your camera bag right now. Um,
Yeah,
we'll have
maybe.
some new stickers to hand out. Hopefully, if Andrew remembers, and we'll both be there. So if you see one of us, say hi. So
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
have
we'll be there.
there's a pretty good contingent coming in from Phoenix. I know of a solid 6 or 7 people from here that are going to be there.
That's cool.
Maybe even 10. Thinking about it. And one of my local friends here is his truck came out of the paint booth today. So he's not sleeping for the next 3 days, and he's hoping to bring his 78 Toyota pickup there too. So it'll be neat to see that
Cool.
debut. He doesn't build crap; he builds real nice stuff. So we'll see what happens. It's the KP61 something something on Instagram. I don't
All
remember
right, cool.
Steve's his real name. He's got the yellow Starlet,
Oh, right,
the
right,
real
right.
nice yellow Starlet. Yeah, he's building a really nice 78 Toyota pickup. Um, that's hopefully going to be there for its debut show. You know what I mean?
Cool.
81 KP61 is his Instagram name. There's a
Nice.
little teaser shot of the Toyota pickup there right now. So
Yeah, and then we'll have some more content because we'll actually be together.
yep, it's perfect. Bring a recorder.
I feel like if I do, we won't have time. If I don't, we will.
Yes, so bring it.
All right, I'll think about it.
Put it
It's
with
just extra
stickers.
weight I got to pack. I got a bunch of stuff to bring, so for work as well.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. All right, sir. Well, I think that's a show.
I think it is a show. So, yeah, as always, you can find me on Instagram, Rice and Anger. I'll try to post some more pictures of Radwood to our Instagram, Auto Off Topic Podcast, or it's just Auto Off Topic on Instagram. Brad, where can they find you?
They can also find my stuff there and at TSISS350. I'm actually fighting with Google right now with some picture stuff because my memory is full, it seems. So I'm annoyed.
Ah,
Yeah, I don't want to pay Google for storage. I'm trying to figure out how to delete some stuff.
do you have a Flickr account that you pay for?
I don't pay for my Flickr account either.
No, I pay for mine. That's how I back up my stuff.
There's so much. There's so many.
It's
I pay.
unlimited.
I pay for so many monthly things now. It's like it's frustrating.
I pay once a year, and then it's unlimited,
Yeah.
or it's every couple of years. It's expensive, but
Yeah.
really
Exactly.
unlimited
That's. I looked
storage.
at it and it's expensive. I'm trying to find the best way to store things without being. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
All right, so keep cars analog, aim for the roses.